The night hung heavy over Busan's outskirts, the autumn wind rustling through the dense forests that surrounded the emergency response station. Officer Neri Park had just finished her third cup of coffee when the first reports started flooding in. The quiet evening shift was about to become anything but ordinary. Multiple calls lit up the emergency lines simultaneously. Reports of a falling star that moved against the wind, trailing smoke and debris. Then came the thunderous impact that shook windows for miles around. Neri's years of training kicked in as she activated the station's emergency protocols. All units, this is Officer Park. We have an unknown impact event in Sector 7. Possible aircraft down. All available personnel report to vehicles immediately. Her voice remained steadied, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Within minutes, her team had assembled. Medics, firefighters, and rescue specialists, all trained for the worst, but about to face something none of them could have prepared for. The convoy of emergency vehicles wound through the narrow forest roads, their lights cutting through the darkness. The air grew thicker with an unfamiliar smell, not the usual burnt metal and fuel of a crash site, but something alien and electric that made the hair on the back of Neri's neck stand up. They found the crash site in a clearing that hadn't existed an hour ago. Trees lay splintered in a radius around the impact point, and at the center sat something that defied explanation. It wasn't an aircraft. At least not any kind Neri had ever seen. The object was roughly oval-shaped, its surface covered in patterns that seemed to shift and move in the emergency lights. Steam or smoke rose from its hull, but it wasn't the black smoke of burning fuel. Instead, it shimmered with an iridescent quality that cast rainbow patterns on the disturbed earth below. Maintain distance, Neri ordered as her team started to move forward. We don't know what we're dealing with here. She keyed her radio, ready to call in military support, when she heard it. A sound that made everyone freeze in their tracks. It was like nothing terrestrial. A mixture of clicks and whistles that somehow conveyed pain and fear even across the species barrier. The sound came from within the crashed vessel, and it was getting weaker. Neri made a decision that would later be debated in emergency response courses worldwide. Instead of waiting for specialized teams or military intervention, she grabbed her medical kit and approached the vessel. Her training told her that suffering was suffering, regardless of its source. As she got closer, a section of the hull seemed to dissolve, revealing the interior. What she saw both fascinated and horrified her. The being inside was clearly alive, and clearly not human. Its body was covered in scales that might have once been brilliantly colored, but were now dulled with what appeared to be blood. Though the liquid had an unusual silvery quality to it, six-fingered hands clutched at what was obviously a severe injury in its midsection, and multiple eyes blinked rapidly in the harsh emergency lights. The creature tried to move away from her, but pain kept it from getting far. Neri noticed how its movements seemed labored, as if Earth's gravity was too much for it to handle. Yet despite its alien appearance, she recognized the universal signs of a critically injured patient. "I'm here to help," she said softly, knowing the words wouldn't be understood, but hoping her tone would convey her intentions. She kept her movements slow and deliberate, holding her hands where the creature could see them. The being's multiple eyes tracked her movements, its breathing rapid and shallow. To everyone's surprise, the creature slowly lowered its hands from its defensive posture. Whether it truly understood her intentions or was simply too weak to resist, Neri didn't know. But as she began to assess its injuries, she noticed something remarkable. The creature's breathing began to synchronize with her own calm, measured breaths. "This is Officer Park." She spoke into her radio, never taking her eyes off her patient. "I need every medical unit we have. And someone get me the best xenobiologist in Busan. We're about to make history, but first, we're going to save a life." As her team cautiously approached with stretchers and equipment, Neri realized that this night would change everything. Humanity's first contact wouldn't be marked by grand speeches or diplomatic meetings, but by a simple act of compassion in a forest clearing on the outskirts of Busan. And somehow that seemed exactly right. The emergency room of Busan Metropolitan Hospital buzzed with controlled chaos as staff prepared for an arrival unlike any other. Dr. Jae-ho Kim stood at the ready, his experienced hands steady despite the unprecedented situation. 25 years of emergency medicine hadn't prepared him for an extraterrestrial patient, but the fundamental principle remained the same. Save the life before you. When the ambulance doors burst open, Jae-ho's professional mask nearly slipped. The creature on the stretcher defied everything he knew about biology. Its scaled body gleamed under the harsh hospital lights, and what appeared to be blood dripped onto the floor. But instead of red, it sparkled like liquid crystal. Multiple trauma to the thoracic region, Officer Neri Park reported as they wheeled the alien into the trauma bay, responding to basic first aid, but its vital signs are unlike anything our equipment can properly read. Jae-ho nodded, his mind already racing through possibilities. "Get me the experimental scanning equipment from the research wing," he ordered. "And someone contact the university's xenobiology department, if they're not already on their way." Young nurse Soo Bin Lee moved with remarkable efficiency, her initial shock giving way to professional focus. She had only been on the job for 2 years, but her adaptability proved invaluable as she quickly modified standard equipment to work with the alien's unique physiology. "The crystalline substance appears to be their equivalent of blood," Soo Bin observed, holding up a sample tube. "It's maintaining a constant temperature despite exposure to air, and look, it seems to be reacting to our standard saline solution." The creature, which they would later know as Tech, watched them with multiple eyes that tracked every movement. Its initial terror had subsided into what appeared to be curiosity, especially when the medical team successfully established an improvised IV line. "Remarkable," Jae-ho muttered, studying the readouts from the modified monitoring equipment. "The cellular structure is completely foreign, but the basic principles of trauma care still apply. They have a circulatory system, respiratory function, and what appears to be a central nervous system, just organized differently than ours." The team worked through the night, adapting human medical knowledge to an alien physiology. Every so often, Tech would make a series of clicking sounds that seemed to convey different emotions. The sounds grew less distressed and more inquisitive as the hours passed. What amazed Jae-ho most was how quickly his team adapted. There was no precedent for this, no manual to follow, yet everyone fell into a rhythm. Soo Bin's innovative thinking proved especially valuable. She discovered that certain frequencies of light seemed to help stabilize Tech's crystalline blood flow. "Doctor," Soo Bin called out around dawn, "I think I've figured something out about their healing process. Watch this." She adjusted the light therapy equipment, and the team watched in fascination as Tech's wounded tissue began to slowly knit itself together, the crystalline blood acting as both catalyst and building material. The creature's multiple eyes widened, and a series of musical clicks filled the room. Though they couldn't understand the sounds, the meaning seemed clear: approval and gratitude. By morning, news vans had gathered outside the hospital, and government officials were arriving in steady streams. But inside the trauma bay, none of that mattered. The team continued their work, communicating with Tech through a combination of gestures and improvised signs. "You know what's truly fascinating?" Jae-ho said to Soo Bin as they monitored Tech's recovery. "Despite all the differences, despite having evolved on completely different worlds, we still share some basic biological principles. Life finds similar solutions even across the stars." A soft chime from their modified monitoring equipment indicated improving vital signs. Tech had stabilized, their crystalline blood now flowing with a healthy shimmer. The alien reached out with one 6-fingered hand, gently touching the IV line that Soo Bin had engineered, then made a gesture that unmistakably mimicked writing. Soo Bin quickly brought over a tablet, and to everyone's amazement, Tech began drawing complex symbols. Within hours, these would become the foundation for their first attempts at communication. But for now, the medical team simply watched in wonder as their patient took the first steps toward bridging the gap between their worlds. As the sun rose over Busan, casting golden light through the hospital windows, Jeho realized that medicine had changed forever. But more than that, humanity had shown that when faced with the unknown, compassion and ingenuity could overcome any barrier, even those that spanned the stars. Henul Cho never imagined her biology studies would lead to becoming the world's first hospital-based chief xenobiologist. Yet here she was, documenting the recovery of Earth's first confirmed extraterrestrial patient. The private wing of Busan Metropolitan Hospital had been transformed into a unique combination of medical ward and research facility, all centered around their remarkable patient. She sat at her workstation, reviewing the night's data when tech made another breakthrough in communication. The alien had mastered the basic tablet interface faster than anyone expected, and now strings of translated text appeared on the main screen. "Your world pulls so strongly," tech typed. "How do your bones not shatter under this weight?" Henul smiled, making careful notes. "We evolved here," she explained through the interface. "Our bodies are designed for Earth's gravity." She paused before asking, "Is that why you seem to struggle with movement?" The response came quickly. "My home world has 1/3 this gravity. Every movement here feels like swimming in heavy liquid. Yet your people move as if it's nothing. Even your young ones run and jump freely." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the morning medical team. Dr. Jeho Kim and Nurse Subin Lee had become constants in Tech's care, their presence seeming to comfort the alien patient. Today they brought something new. A modified mobility assistance device designed to help Tech move more easily under Earth's gravity. "We noticed how much energy you expend just sitting up," Subin explained through the translator. "This should help distribute the gravitational load more evenly across your body structure." Tech's multiple eyes widened. An expression they'd learned indicated interest or excitement. The alien reached out with those distinctive six-fingered hands to examine the device, making soft clicking sounds that the translation program was still learning to interpret. Henul watched in fascination as the medical team helped Tech test the device. The alien's movements became noticeably more fluid, almost graceful, as the assistance system compensated for Earth's stronger gravitational pull. What struck her most was the look of pure joy in Tech's eyes. Some emotions, it seemed, were truly universal. "Your people continue to surprise me," Tech typed later. "In my culture, helping unknown species is considered dangerous. Yet you not only saved my life, but you keep finding ways to make my existence here easier. Why?" The question led to a deep discussion about human nature. Henul found herself explaining concepts like empathy and medical ethics, while Tech shared insights about their own society's more cautious approach to interspecies contact. The learning went both ways. Tech's crystalline blood had properties that fascinated the medical researchers. It seemed to adapt to temperature changes more efficiently than human blood, and its healing properties were remarkable. Several pharmaceutical companies had already reached out, hoping to study these characteristics for potential medical applications. As days passed, Tech's recovery progressed steadily. The alien began taking short walks around the secure ward, always accompanied by either Henul or medical staff. Other patients and hospital workers would sometimes glimpse them through the ward's windows, leading to a mix of reactions ranging from awe to nervousness. But Tech seemed to take it all in stride, often waving one of their six-fingered hands at curious onlookers. "Your species is so diverse," Tech observed one evening. "Different colors, sizes, shapes, yet you all work together seamlessly. In my world, even slight variations between groups can lead to distrust." Henul considered this. "We have our own history of distrusting differences," she admitted. "But we're learning. Maybe that's why we were able to help you. We're practiced at looking past surface differences." The conversation was interrupted by an evening checkup. As Dr. Kim examined Tech's healing wounds, the alien's eyes followed every movement with obvious fascination. Their crystal blood now flowed with a healthy shimmer, and the deep gashes had nearly closed. Your medical knowledge is remarkable for a species that hasn't achieved regular interstellar travel. Tech typed after the examination. How did you advance so far in healing while remaining relatively isolated? Necessity. Hey Newell explained. We've had to solve our own medical problems without outside help. Maybe that's made us more innovative. As night fell over Busan, Hey Newell completed her daily reports. She documented not just Tech's physical recovery, but also these conversations that revealed so much about both their species. Somewhere in these exchanges lay the foundation for humanity's future relationship with the wider galaxy. Looking up from her notes, she saw Tech peacefully resting, the soft glow of their crystalline blood visible through translucent scales. In just a few weeks, this alien had transformed from a mysterious patient into something approaching a friend. It was, Hey Newell reflected, perhaps the most important lesson of all. That connection and understanding could bridge even the vast distances between stars. Tae-young Song pulled her chair closer to Tech's bed, tablet in hand, ready for another fascinating day of cultural exchange. As a senior researcher in human sociology, she never imagined her expertise would be used to explain humanity to an actual alien. Yet here she was, serving as Earth's unofficial cultural ambassador to their extraordinary patient. I want to understand something. Tech typed through the translator. Yesterday, I watched through the window as two humans argued loudly in the parking lot. Then, moments later, they helped a stranger pick up dropped papers. How can you switch between aggression and kindness so quickly? Dae-young smiled, considering how to explain such a fundamental aspect of human nature. We contain multitudes, she replied. Every human is capable of both good and bad. What matters is the choices we make. Tech's multiple eyes blinked, and what they'd learned was a sign of deep thought. The aliens' recovery room had become a comfortable space, decorated with both earth plants and special lighting that mimicked their homeworld spectrum. Through the window, they could see the busy hospital grounds below, providing endless opportunities to observe human behavior. In my culture, Tech typed, we strive to eliminate such contradictions. We believe in pure logic, pure purpose, yet your contradictions seem to make you stronger, not weaker. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of lunch, both regular hospital food for Dae-young and a specially prepared nutrient solution for Tech. The alien watched with fascination as Dae-young ate her rice and soup. Your species consumes such a variety of substances, Tech observed. We only process pure energy crystals. Isn't it inefficient to need so many different types of nutrition? Dae-young chewed thoughtfully before responding. Maybe. But it's also given us adaptability. Humans can survive on many different food sources. When one fails, we can switch to another. Throughout the afternoon, their discussions ranged widely. Tech was particularly interested in human art, struggling to understand why beings would spend time creating things with no practical purpose. Dae-young showed them pictures of famous paintings and played classical music, watching as the aliens' crystalline blood seemed to pulse in rhythm with the melodies. Your species confuses me, Tech admitted later. You haven't mastered faster-than-light travel, yet you've created millions of songs. You can't terraform planets, but you paint pictures of flowers. You fight wars among yourselves, yet you stopped everything to save one crashed alien. Dae-young watched as Tech used the gravity assistance device to move to the window. The aliens' movements had become more confident over the weeks, though Earth's gravity still challenged them. Perhaps that's exactly why we advance, Dae-young suggested. We don't focus on just one path of development. We try everything, even if it seems illogical. Sometimes our greatest achievements come from what other species might consider wastes of time. Tech turned all eyes toward her. Yesterday, I learned about your space programs. You reached your moon using computers less powerful than the translator I'm using now. You did it through sheer determination, even knowing the high risk of failure. My species would have waited for better technology. Sometimes, Dae-young replied, not knowing something is impossible makes it possible. As evening approached, they watched the hospital shift change below. Doctors and nurses streamed in and out, some looking tired, others fresh and ready for work. Tech observed how they interacted. The quick jokes, the supportive pats on shoulders, the shared coffee breaks. Your people support each other constantly, Tech noted. Even strangers. In my world, such behavior would only exist within designated social units. Dae-young considered this. Humans are social creatures. We've survived because we help each other, even when there's no logical benefit to ourselves. The conversation continued until visiting hours ended. As Dae-young packed up her materials, Tech typed one final observation that made her pause. I think I understand now why your species hasn't been contacted before, the alien wrote. Other civilizations see your technological level and assume you're primitive. They don't realize that technology isn't the only measure of advancement. Your capacity for both logic and emotion, your ability to be both warriors and healers, your drive to create beauty alongside function. These make you unique, and perhaps, to some, frightening. Dae-young looked at their alien patient, seeing not just a being from another world, but a bridge between two very different ways of understanding the universe. Different doesn't mean better or worse, she replied. Maybe we all have something to learn from each other. As she left the hospital that night, Dae-young reflected that in teaching Tech about humanity, she had learned something profound about her own species. Humans were indeed full of contradictions, but perhaps those very contradictions were what made them special among the stars. The morning began like any other at Busan Metropolitan Hospital until Tech's crystalline blood suddenly pulsed with an intense glow. The alien's multiple eyes darted frantically toward the window, all focused on a particular point in the sky that appeared empty to human observers. Dr. Jae-ho Kim was checking Tech's vital signs when the alien's six-fingered hands grabbed the tablet with unusual urgency. The message that appeared sent a chill through the room. They're coming. The ones who shot down my ship. They tracked me to Earth. Officer Neri Park, who had been visiting her rescued patient, immediately activated her emergency communications channel. The alien's next message made the situation even more dire. 3 warships, heavy class. They'll be here within days. I'm so sorry. I never meant to bring this to your world. Instead of the panic Tech expected, the humans in the room moved with surprising calm and purpose. Neri was already coordinating with military command, while Dr. Kim ensured the aliens' monitoring systems were stable despite their obvious distress. Within an hour, Min-ho Kang, the newly appointed head of the Extraterrestrial Defense Initiative, arrived at the hospital. He was a former military strategist who had been chosen to lead Earth's first organized response to potential alien threats. No one had expected his services to be needed so soon. Tell us everything you can about their capabilities, Min-ho requested through the translator. His voice remained steady, his demeanor professional. This was no longer a medical situation. It was humanity's first interstellar crisis. Tech's description painted a grim picture. The approaching forces belonged to the Verax, a species known for claiming resource-rich worlds through force. They had attacked Tech's research vessel believing it had discovered a valuable planet. Now they were following the escape pod's trail to Earth. Your weapons won't be effective against their shields, Tech warned. Their technology is centuries ahead of yours. Min-ho's response surprised the alien. Then we'll have to be creative. Humanity has a long history of defeating technologically superior forces through unconventional means. The hospital room transformed into an impromptu command center. Military leaders joined via secure video links while Tech provided detailed information about Verax ship designs and tactical patterns. The alien watched in amazement as humans worldwide coordinated their response without descent into chaos or panic. Your species continues to surprise me, Tech typed during a brief pause in the planning. Most civilizations would be paralyzed with fear. Instead, you're adapting your strategies and preparing for defense as if you've done this before. Neri, who hadn't left her post since the warning, smiled grimly. We've spent centuries preparing for every possible threat. Alien invasion scenarios have been part of our military planning for decades. We may not have your technology, but we have imagination and determination. Throughout the day, Earth's military forces mobilized with remarkable efficiency. Satellites were repositioned, defensive systems were activated, and civilian populations were quietly prepared for potential emergency measures, all without causing widespread panic. Min-Ho coordinated with scientific teams worldwide, incorporating tech's knowledge into Earth's existing defense systems. The aliens' information about Verax shield frequencies proved invaluable as human engineers worked to modify their weapons. There's something you should understand about humans, Min-Ho explained to Tech as they worked. We're at our best when facing impossible odds. Throughout our history, we've overcome challenges that should have destroyed us. This will be no different. As night fell, Tech observed the quiet efficiency with which humans prepared for what could be their first interstellar war. The alien had expected fear, chaos, or resignation. Instead, they witnessed determination, innovation, and unity. I need to tell you something, Tech typed as the day's activities wound down. The Verax. They've never failed to conquer a world they've targeted. Their technology, their numbers. Neri interrupted gently. Then they've never faced humans before. We may not have the most advanced weapons, but we have something they don't expect. The ability to unite and adapt when threatened. And thanks to you, we won't be caught completely unprepared. The aliens' crystalline blood pulsed with what they'd learned to recognize as emotion. I brought this danger to your world. Yet you're still protecting me, still treating me as one of your own. Of course we are, Dr. Kim replied, checking Tech's vital signs one last time before night shift. You're under our care. That makes you our responsibility. It's what humans do. As the first day of Earth's preparation ended, Tech watched the city lights below their window. Busan continued its normal activities, its people unaware of the threat approaching from above. But in offices, military bases, and research facilities worldwide, humanity was quietly preparing for its greatest challenge. The alien realized that they had inadvertently done something no other species had managed. They had given humanity advance warning of their first interstellar conflict. And watching these remarkable beings prepare, Tech began to wonder if perhaps the Verax had finally chosen the wrong target. Colonel Ta Wen-Yun stood in the Global Defense Command Center, watching as three massive shapes appeared on the long-range sensors. The Verax warships emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly where Tech had predicted they would. Their massive forms dwarfed anything humanity had ever built, each ship longer than the largest aircraft carrier. All stations, battle positions, Ta Wen commanded, his voice calm despite the gravity of the situation. Around him, the command center hummed with focused energy as military personnel from dozens of nations worked in perfect coordination. The Verax ships moved with obvious confidence, making no attempt to hide their approach. Why should they? In their experience, primitive planets like Earth fell quickly to their superior technology. Their first sign that this target might be different came when they attempted to establish communication dominance. Their communication systems are being scrambled, reported Lieutenant Kim from her station. The frequency-shifting algorithm we developed from Tech's data is working perfectly. They can't coordinate their ships effectively. Taiwan allowed himself a small smile. The Verax relied heavily on their advanced communications. They never expected a primitive species to be able to interfere with it. That was just the first surprise Earth had prepared for them. The alien ships launched their first wave of attack drones, expecting to easily overwhelm Earth's defenses. Instead, they encountered a web of modified satellite weapons, their targeting systems enhanced with knowledge gained from Tech. Dozens of drones exploded in the first minutes of contact. In the hospital, Tech watched the battle through a secured feed, their crystalline blood pulsing with amazement. Impossible, they typed to Dae-Young Song, who stayed with them during the crisis. Their drone technology has never failed before. The Verax commanders, frustrated by their initial losses, moved their ships closer to Earth, preparing to use their main weapons. That's when Ta Wen revealed humanity's biggest surprise. "Launch the EMPs," he ordered. Across the globe, specially modified electromagnetic pulse weapons fired simultaneously. Under normal circumstances, they would have been useless against advanced alien shields. But these had been modified based on Tech's knowledge of Varrac's shield frequencies. The effect was devastating. Shield systems flickered and failed. Communication systems went dark. The mighty Varrac's warships, accustomed to overwhelming primitive worlds with their technology, suddenly found themselves vulnerable. "Now," Ta-1 commanded, "show them what primitive weapons can do." Conventional missiles, their warheads modified with elements that could penetrate Varrac's hull material, struck true. Fighter jets, piloted by Earth's best, engaged the confused and disoriented enemy ships. What should have been a quick conquest turned into a desperate battle for survival. For the invaders, "Your species," Tech typed frantically, watching the battle unfold, "you fight like nothing I have ever seen. No standardized formations, no predictable patterns. Every unit seems to act independently yet somehow coordinates perfectly." Young explained proudly, "That's because every human commander can make their own decisions based on the situation. We don't rely on central control like the Varrac's do." The largest Varrac ship, its systems crippled by the unexpected resistance, attempted to retreat. The other two, their commanders too proud to flee from primitives, pressed their attack. It proved to be their final mistake. Ta-1's forces had held back their heaviest weapons for this moment. As the Varrac ships committed to their attack run, they found themselves caught in a crossfire of Earth's combined military might. Chinese missiles struck from one side, American railguns from another, while Russian and European energy weapons, enhanced with Tech's knowledge, targeted their vulnerable points. The battle lasted less than 6 hours. When it ended, 2 Varrac's warships were destroyed, and the third had fled, carrying word of Earth's unexpected strength back to its civilization. The space above Earth was littered with debris from what should have been an invincible force. In the command center, Ta-1 finally allowed himself to relax slightly. "Damage report," he requested. "Minimal civilian casualties, sir," came the response. "Our early warning systems worked perfectly. Most losses were military, and even those were far lower than expected." As celebrations broke out around the world, Tech watched in stunned silence from their hospital room. Everything they knew about interstellar warfare had been proven wrong. Humanity, using weapons that should have been hopelessly outmatched, had defeated one of the galaxy's most feared military powers. "I understand now," they typed to Young. "Your strength isn't in your technology. It's in your adaptability, your unpredictability, your ability to take what you learn and use it in ways no one expects." The sun set over a changed Earth that evening. Humanity had faced its first interstellar threat and emerged victorious. But more importantly, they had proven that technological advancement wasn't the only measure of a species' strength. Sometimes determination, creativity, and the ability to unite against a common threat could overcome any technological gap. Ambassador Hai-Jin Choi adjusted her formal attire as she prepared to address the Galactic Council for the first time. The massive chamber, with its soaring crystalline walls and representatives from hundreds of civilizations, would have seemed impossible just months ago. Now it was about to become her regular workplace. Tech stood beside her, their crystalline blood glowing with a warm, supportive light. The alien who had crashed in a forest outside Busan had become Earth's strongest advocate in interstellar politics. Together, they had spent weeks preparing for this moment. "Remember," Tech typed on their shared translator, "many of these species still think of Earth as primitive. Show them what I've learned about humanity." The council chamber fell silent as Hai-Jin stepped forward. Representatives from across the galaxy turned their various sensory organs toward Earth's first ambassador. Some showed obvious skepticism, others curiosity, and a few displayed what their species considered respect. "Members of the Galactic Council," Hai-Jin began, her voice clear and confident. "Earth comes before you not as a primitive world seeking protection, but as a civilization ready to join the galactic community as equals. She told Earth's story, not just of the recent victory over the Verax, but of humanity's long journey. She spoke of how a paramedic's compassion for an injured alien had led to an unlikely friendship, which in turn had helped Earth defend itself against an overwhelming force. "We may not have the most advanced technology," she continued, "but we have something that cannot be measured by technological achievements alone. The ability to see beyond differences, to help those in need, and to stand united against any challenge." The chamber erupted in a cacophony of various alien languages as representatives discussed this unexpected perspective. An elder member of the council, a being of pure energy, moved forward to speak. "Your species defeated one of our most aggressive civilizations using modified primitive weapons," the elder's thoughts translated. "Some here fear this makes you dangerous." Hai-Jin smiled. "We are dangerous to those who threaten peace, but we're also capable of tremendous compassion, as Tech can attest. Earth seeks not to conquer or dominate, but to learn and share knowledge." Over the next several hours, Hai-Jin fielded questions from dozens of species. She described Earth's diverse cultures, its history of overcoming divisions to unite against common threats, and its unique approach to problem-solving. Many council members were particularly intrigued by humanity's ability to adapt and innovate quickly. "Your species achieved in days what others take years to develop," one representative noted, referring to the modified weapons used against the Verax. "How is this possible?" "Because we don't assume something is impossible just because it hasn't been done before," Hai-Jin explained. "We see limitations as challenges to overcome, not absolute barriers." As the session concluded, Earth was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council, an unprecedented move for a species at humanity's technological level. But as Tech had helped them understand, technology wasn't everything. Later, during the celebration at the Earth Embassy, Tech approached Hai-Jin with a message. "When I crashed on your world, I thought I was doomed. Instead, I found a species that changed everything I thought I knew about civilization. You humans are walking contradictions, sophisticated yet simple, aggressive yet compassionate, primitive yet innovative. That's what makes you special." Hai-Jin looked out at the gathering, where humans mingled freely with dozens of alien species. Scientists exchanged ideas, diplomats forged new alliances, and cultural exchanges were already being planned. "We never set out to prove anything," she replied. "We just did what humans do, help where we can, fight when we must, and face each new challenge with determination and hope." The celebration continued late into the night, but Hai-Jin took a moment to send a message back to Earth, specifically to Neri Park, the paramedic whose simple act of compassion had started it all. The message was simple. Your decision to help a wounded stranger didn't just save one life. It opened the gates to the stars. As Earth's first year in the galactic community began, humanity found itself in an unprecedented position. Their unique combination of adaptability, determination, and compassion made them valuable allies and respected partners in interstellar affairs. Species that had once dismissed Earth as primitive now sought human perspectives on complex problems. And it all began with a simple choice: to help someone in need, regardless of where they came from or how different they appeared. In that one moment, humanity had unknowingly proven itself ready for the stars.